like Attila the Hun. I came here to conquer. Lanes bring the beef, I tell them no donker. They wanna play games, I shock them like Blanca. They still rudimentary, I'm tough like Tonka. And let me get this off my chest. I'm hearing going nowhere, so haters take a rest. Ain't nothing handed, just working hard, sweating. You can take that to the bank. I know I did bet.
Welcome to episode 10 of Eye of the Storm. Yay, episode 10. I, of course, am your host, Tempestt. Please sure to hit the like button, and if you're new and like the content, please sure to leave a sub and hit the notification bell to know when the next video goes up. It really helps the channel out. Also, if you haven't seen the previous episodes, feel free to give that a look as well. I've also started a playlist for ease of access, as you know, and I do other things such as my own music and montages and things, so look out for that. And with that out of the way, let's get started. News. I don't know what else to say. There's no real introduction to what we're doing. There was a roundtable discussion between the major fighting game companies where they were asked a few questions, and there were announcements, and on Wednesday we had a solo thing from Capcom with reveals, so I'll be giving a rundown of my impressions on it. This is going to be long. I will preface the roundtable with what they said. It had to be a subject everyone was willing to talk about. Everyone means that if even one company doesn't want to, it means that they can't talk about it. So that addresses anyone who had something to say about the rollback situation. With that said, let's get started. Look at that, I guess there was an introduction. So, the roundtable discussion decided to take 5 questions or subjects to handle for their first one. These were as follows: character roster, crossplay, different peripherals, user experience in the future of fighting games, and simplification of fighting games. I took a ton of notes, and to be honest, compiling is going to be tough in terms of everything. Getting it in a normal time frame may be impossible. In terms of character roster selection, they talk about the factors such as the audience they have to consider, character variety, and difficulty. Basically, they have to balance newcomers and older players and playstyles and whatnot, while debating on what the fan base actually wants to see. Then there's the archetype balance. Now, there was some hilarious talk from the DOA guy talking about, hey, my fan base wants cute girls. No surprise there. Pretty basic, but it does show that there is some thought in what they pick. Obviously, trying not to lean too hard in one direction, but making adjustments based on feedback. Pretty straightforward. Next was crossplay. The biggest things to take away from that was that it's something the group reps wanted. They mentioned it's not really a technical barrier at this point. In short, the issue lies with first-party issues and like consoles and whatnot. Factor in some individual game difficulties, the fact that unlike shooters, it's not dedicated but peer-to-peer. It's just working out something on a middle ground. However, again, it's stated they want crossplay moving forward. They feel it's something they can and should do wholeheartedly. So there's some positive outlook there. Harada said he'll be pushing hard for it. By the way, Harada was the GOAT in this discussion. Next thing was the issue of peripherals. Things came up like driver updates, lack of manufacturing, not a lot of companies are making arcade sticks, but we do have hitboxes. Didn't come up in discussion, oddly enough. And the difference in what people use. Harada spoke heavily on this one, mentioning how people are more and more on D-pad, controller, and it might even be a 50-50 split at this point overall. They also mentioned how they used to make accommodations for overseas players that would come and only play on pad, so that way they could play with other people. They also mentioned how older games were more execution heavy, they had double tapping, things like that, so arcade stick was preferable. But with how things are now, which we'll get into later, it's less stress on that aspect, which explains a lot if we're being honest. Then this actually moves into the next subject, which is user experience in future fighting games. They talked about better matchmaking, which kind of spawned a lot of points. Basically started with where you could incorporate better AI, and from there it just exploded. So that includes a data processing system that could help you rank up better. In other words, like choosing your opponents to rank by this AI. Throw in appropriate AI opponents while you wait for opponents to fill in the gap, because we all know if you play ranked, sometimes you have a hard time finding opponents. Perhaps a point system AI difficulty, all of this. It was just a huge discussion that they kind of like used up all their time on. They even joked about the super hard SNK bosses at the end of the discussion, which if you happen to know or not know really of that infamous frustration, you're in for a treat. Look up some old KOF or SNK bosses in general, then feel bad for those of us who experienced it. The last part that they discuss is Link 2, which is simplification of fighting games. That's one everybody wanted to talk about. This came down to the points of trying to make the games accessible and what that actually means, because we all know how frustrating this process has been over the past 10 plus years. And they're still trying to figure it out. Veterans have been putting work in fighting games, and naturally they're going to have a huge advantage, but how can you not discourage newer players from jumping in? They talked about the fact that there's a difference between simple and easy. We'll talk about that. And how Daisuke from Guilty Gear is in the process of figuring this out with Strive. How cutting things out may not be the answer. And Grand Blue was used as a great step in this right direction. A lot of people agreed on that, and it was used as a reference point for input difficulty, execution barriers, the fact that simple just doesn't always equal better. And they even mentioned how FPS has handled the situation, where, you know, basic concept, even though there's a different experience, they said that they could try the FPS approach, but no. The idea is progression, which they're trying hard on. And honestly, these are all ideas I can expand on in future episodes, so be on the lookout. Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to address all the announcements here. This episode, again, it might be slightly longer than normal. DOA 6, Koei Tecmo, if I have the company correct, I'm pretty sure I do. You know, Team Ninja and all them. They mentioned a summer sale, core fighters, and of course Tamaki, a new character, which should all be in effect as of this recording. SNK danced around KOF, but they did hint that we'll get information about it soon, so KOF 15 hopefuls, just stay patient. Sam Show is getting a new character in season, the former of which will be free. Harada, side note, also blew the lid on KOF by asking if he could have Geese in Tekken for good. Again, Harada's the GOAT. Arika teased a lot of things. They said they'd just been testing things heavily. They mentioned rollback and that it would be implemented pretty much right away, which it was. Harada mentioned rollback as well, but that Tekken already has it, and you know, there's adjustments that just need to be made there. Back to Arika, they had a sale for fighting EX Lair, but that kind of ended on the 4th. Sorry about that. Bamco, or Bandai Namco, mentioned tournament stuff that was pretty much exclusive to Sony for Soul Calibur 6, season pass stuff being delayed due to the pandemic, Setsuka and the Tekken costume pack for Soul Calibur 6, which is out already, and a sale on PS4. Tekken Season 4 was announced with new moves, balancing, and improved net play, and a Wi-Fi indicator. Rejoice, PC players. And a trailer that may give us Kunimitsu? Maybe someone from DOA? Something else? Who knows? Arxis mentioned Arc Revo Online, which kind of boiled down to a big focus on BB Tag and Grand Blue Versus for both the States and Japan. In Japan, they got all the good games, you know, the Guilty Gears and the other Blaze Blue games, but, you know, that's just for Japan. Sorry, US. By the way, Strive was pushed back a bit, but, you know, they mentioned Leo and Nagoriyuki. They had trailers for them, so they are added to the roster, and the next one I believe they said was in October. And the PS5 was also added to the list of systems, you know, making sense since they're pushing it back a bit. Capcom talked about League stuff. Now notice I definitely left them for last because of their own thing. So the League stuff is happening in 2021. There'll be a 3v3 format. They're talking about like the best of the best all over the world facing each other, so this should be interesting. Then they started talking about other things, which is addressing Season 5. We got a cool little thing with Kenny Omega, some t-shirts. There was that, so that was kind of cool. But addressing season 5 real quick, we got Dan coming in winter, Rose in spring. I'm excited for Rose. Oro, who I'm actually kind of excited for too, and freaking Akira from Rival Schools. I freaked, and I really do not freak out with stuff like that, but like that was just big for me. They're coming in summer, and there is a mystery character in fall. So Street Fighter V is alive for at least another 2 years, kids. So don't expect to hear about Street Fighter 6 for quite some time, but I'll give 5 another shot. That's about it. There's a lot to pack in, so give me your thoughts in the comment section, and anywhere else that you know you can reach me. It's good for a healthy discussion, so go on and be sure to sub if you liked it, and just share with a friend. Now, with that said, we do have more news coming from Arxis, so I'll be back next time with that. That being said, let's take care of each other, be safe, press buttons, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
You want says, best believe that you'll catch one. Represent my gang, head shaking like I'm Gladiator. Beat the beat ferociously, I'm vicious like the Manitan. Robbie favorite rapper, then just rolling like a Don fan. I'm flame body, everything I do is guaranteed high. Y'all gon' keep this record spinning heavy like a poker stop. I grasp not.